Welcome to this video. We talk about classification of living organisms. In earlier video, we have seen characteristics. Now, biology means what? Biology means biology. Logy is a science or study. Bio is living things. So, study of life or science of life or knowledge of life is biology. That word was coined by Lamarck and Taviranus in 1802. The word biology was coined only in 1802. Now, biology is further divided into two parts. One is botany, one is zoology. Botany is study of plants, zoology is study of animals. Who is father of botany? We call Theophrastus as the father of botany. Theophrastus as a father of botany, and we call Aristotle as a father of zoology also. The arrangement of living organisms is what we study according to their common characteristic and placing them in a group. This is what is classification. Classification is arranging the living organism according to their common characteristics, placing them in a group. Now we have seen we will have to give a name. For giving a name, we have to classify them into various groups. For that, we have to identify their various characteristics. For that, we have to select or eliminate. So selection or elimination based on characteristics, and then positioning them based on the known classification system. After they are grouped into convenient categories based on observable fundamental characters is what first we do, and then we give them a name. This is what arrangement of living organisms according to the common characteristic and placing them in a group stands for classification of living organisms. What are different types or different schools? One is called numerical taxonomy. Numerical taxonomy is based on observable characteristics and number or code is assigned, one for something, two for something else. Cytotaxonomy. Cyto means a cell based on the cytological information. Cyto means a cell, C-E-L-L, cell. Chemotaxonomy. Chemotaxonomy is based on the chemical constant. Chemotaxonomy is based on chemical constants. Now, what is the basis of classification? One is artificial or prior classification. What is that? Very few characters are considered as the key feature for classification. Whether you are tall or short, only that is considered. Whether you are black or white, only that is considered. So that is very few characteristics. Never throws light on the affinities or relationships. It doesn't tell whether this brown means it's a brown of the man versus brown of the horse versus brown of the dog, or it doesn't give affinities. What it is we are talking about? Are we talking about brown horses or brown goats or brown cows or human beings? So it is prior classification. Now comes the phenetic or natural. What is that? Based on permanent vegetative characters. Based on permanent vegetative characters is natural. So there is no grouping of heterogeneous groups. Unrelated groups are not. Hetero means different. Heterogeneous is different. Homogeneous means same or similar. So artificial is very few characters are considered, very few characteristics are considered. Natural means vegetative characters are considered and unrelated things are not grouped. Cladist or phylogenetic, phenetic and phylogenetic. In phylogenetic, what happens? Ancestral relationships are taken. Ancestral relationships means what? Genetic relationship, how the genes are in them. So this can be three types. What is it? Monophyletic, that is one ancestry. Polyphyletic, derived from two ancestors. Paraphyletic, not all characteristics of all descendants of common ancestors are displayed. Now, based on the characteristics of one ancestor, when we group it, we call it as monophyletic. Based on characteristics of two ancestors, maybe the father's side and mother's side, we can say. Then it will be called polyphyletic. When not all characters of all descendant of a common ancestor is displayed by this group of organism, it is called paraphyletic grouping. So you have an artificial grouping, phenetic grouping, phylogenetic grouping, ancestor relationship is what phylogenetic is. How we have done this? We have done this as a five kingdom system. We have done a five kingdom system. It was proposed by Whitaker. It was proposed by Whitaker. What are those kingdoms? Monera, Protista, Fungi, Animalia and Plantae. Plantae are the plants and these are the animals. If these are plants and animals, what are these? These are all creatures or organisms which do not strictly fall into Animalia Plantae group, but they have to be having a separate kingdom based on their characteristics, right? Now, what is evolution? How did the classification evolve? First, we had a two-kingdom system, which was proposed by Carolus Linnaeus. What was that? Animalia and Plantae. We have seen the species planetum, right? What is that? Photosynthetic organisms which produce their own food are called plants. Non-photosynthetic are the organisms which do not share the characteristic of plant are called animals. Now, what is the minus point of that? There are some organisms which have characteristics of both or which do not have characteristics of any of this. So, we had a problem with this classification. Then came the three system. Haeckel. Haeckel said what? Protista, Animalia, Plantae. Three groups he created. The good thing is that it included unicellular eukaryotic microorganism, small organism, eukaryotic, single karyo, single eggs, unicellular, one cell. This is a good thing because the minus point of Linnaeus' two kingdom was satisfied, but monerons were not placed correctly. Monera was a type of organism which was not properly placed in this. That was a minus point. Then came the four kingdom. Four kingdom was brought by Copeland. Copeland said what? Okay, Protista, Animalia, Plantae is not enough. We will create something called Monera, Protista, Animalia, Plantae. So monerons were correctly placed, but they were not separated into archbacteria and eubacteria. There were two types of moneras. One is called archbacteria, one is eubacteria. They were not divided. So then came the sixth kingdom classification by Carl Weiss. Carl Weiss said what? Oh, the four kingdom of Copeland has a problem. Let us have now a kingdom in such a fashion. Archbacteria is one kingdom, eubacteria is another kingdom, Protista is another kingdom, fungi is another kingdom, Animalia is one kingdom, Plantae is one kingdom. Then what happened? Then people said, no, Monera were not separated was a problem with the 4, but archbacteria and eubacteria were segregated, that's a problem with the 6. So these were the different views or observations on the different classification system that evolved over a period of time. So finally, we agreed upon this 5 kingdom classification of Whittaker, 5 kingdom classification of Whittaker, where it is Monera, Protista, Plantae, fungi. These are the kingdoms that we have today. Monera, Protista, fungi, Animalia, Plantae. Now, what is kingdom Monera? Kingdom Monera is prokaryotes. Kingdom Monera is prokaryotes. What is prokaryotes? Bacteria such as archbacteria, actinomyocytes, cyanobacteria, mycoplasma, rickettsia. These are the different types of bacteria. These are prokaryotes. Prokaryotes are belonging to the family called Monera. Monera has what? Monera has prokaryotic unicellular organisms. Unicellular, one cell. Looking at bacteria, 1% of them are autotrophic. Autotrophic means what? 1% of the bacteria do not need any food from outside. They can create their own food. Catabolism, anabolism we have seen. There are 4,000 species of bacteria. They are both friends and foes of human beings. Why? An average human is carrying around 70 kilo. If a person is 70 kilo weight, 2.5 kilo is bacteria. That means what? More than around 3% of the body weight of a human being is bacteria. This is microflora. Gut microflora means what? The living organisms, small living organisms in the gut, in our stomach. There are two types. What is archaebacteria? Archaebacteria is primitive. They are called living fossils because we believe these have been in existence even before any other species were there on earth. So that is why these are good to be fossils, as old, but they are still living. What are their characteristics? The cell wall is made up of protein and non-cellulosic polysaccharide. Polysaccharide is a type of sugar. Methanogens are there, that is methane producing. Halophiles are there, they live in marine ecology. And thermoacidophiles, that means what? They can live in hot water spring or in acid spring also. That is why not only that they are primitive, they are called living fossils because in spite of this so much issues like marine which is full of salty, methane is gaseous, acid or hot water, everywhere they can live. Archaebacteria. Methanogen, halophile, thermoacidophile. The second type is eubacteria. Archaebacteria and eubacteria. If you remember, these are the two types of organisms that created evolution in the differences in the classification. There, we can divide them based on nutrition, autotrophic, heterotrophic. Some are autotrophic, some are heterotrophic. They don't have nucleus. They don't have nucleus, and they are bound on organelles. Bound organelles. Based on structure, they be called motile. Motile is what? Vibrio, spiralum, and bacilli. Three types are there. Or they are non-motile. What is that? Cocky, rounded cocky. Cocky causes some diseases also sometimes. Based on their behavior, we can call them as a gram positive or gram negative. Now, this eubacteria falls into 5 phylums. They fall into 5 phylums. Now, we have seen these are the families, right? Before this family, we know it is kingdom, phylum, class, order. So, they fall into 5 phylums. Spirochates, chlamydias, gram-positive bacteria, cyanobacteria, proteinobacteria. These are the different phylums of the Monera. Then comes Protista. Then comes Protista. This is another kingdom. This was proposed by German biologist Ernst Haeckel in 1866. As old as 1866 is this concept. Plant-like protists, that is why they are called Protista, plant-like. They are eukaryotic and unicellular, right? Plant-like protists. Pyrophyta, dinoflagellates, then Chrysophyta, that is diatoms, and then Euglenophyta, euglene. These are euglenoids. So Pyrophyta, Chrysophyta, Euglenophyta. There are three types of protists, plant-like. Then you have a fungi-like. What is that fungi-like? They are the molds. What are the molds? They are acellular slime as well as cellular slime. Molds are the slimes. What is acellular? Myxomycota and Acrasomycota. Acrasomycota. These are the two types of molds, fungi-like. Then we have animal-like protozoans. Animal-like protozoans. What are they? Amoeboids, flagellated, ciliated, and sporosporan. So, sporozoans, ciliated, flagellated, amoeboids are the animal-like protozoan, and then you have two types of fungi-like and three types of plant-like in the kingdom. We will come back to the other sessions in a short while.